Put your hands together for Donald Trump's worst nightmare, destiny.
I can't believe Trump's actually gonna win this fucking thing. Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm so pissed off. Fuck, fuck, fuck. God damn it.
There's the new caravan that's coming to the border. Here's the new
that was true. There was caravans coming to the border.
Yes. Where are all the caravans?
Yeah,
what happened?
You didn't watch the news of the caravans going to the southern border?
Yeah, where did they go? What happened?
It's crazy to me how Destiny just wants to ignore it. Where did they go? There's no caravans. I'm just going to ignore them and pretend that they don't exist.
It's crazy that all of these illegals were supposed to come in. They were supposed to be overwhelming all the welfare centers and everything else, but they started raiding Home Depots to kick them out of their jobs. It's crazy that they were supposed to destroy the United States, but somehow they go to a place like California that is the most prosperous economy in the entire United States. You know, like, yeah, I'm just saying, it's crazy to me. Here's a question. If legal immigrants are so destructive to the United States...
Yeah, so I believe that the Trump administration is drastically better when it comes to the immigration policies, immigration in general. So the stats back this up. So if you look at under the Biden administration, we had 10 million illegal immigrants as far as encounters over there at the border. That's 200,000 illegal immigrants per month that were over there at the border, 15,000 per day, et cetera. Even if you look at the deportation, I believe Biden deported around 3.5 million illegals compared to how many illegals he let into the country, which is around 5 million. So even on that basis, it was still around like 1.5 million that remained, you know, if you count the deportations. So my first question here is, especially because I believe that deterrence is a huge part when it comes to immigration policies, what do you think Joe Biden was doing to deter so many illegals to come to the border compared to the Trump administration now?
I mean, if the argument is ever like, who's doing the best to deter people from coming to the country, I think Donald Trump is doing a really fantastic job of that in a lot of different ways.
Well, why do you think, like, Biden
So, like, the immigration thing, I think that there are arguments that you can make about immigration. I don't think conservatives care about any of them. I think there was kind of like an unfortunate reality that it played in two different ways. So one, at the end of Trump's first term, he benefited really heavily from Title 42, the ability to heavily restrict the border based on medical emergency, and then ignoring like even the Title 42 powers. A lot less people were just migrating anywhere because a lot of people were just staying home because COVID was kind of wrecking everything. And then after COVID ended, I think that when people started to flock to the border again, this kind of asylum loophole started to get discovered. And then
which asylum? Oh, you're talking about people claiming asylum and at the border, right?
Kind of, yeah, but more so than that. That if you claim asylum and they don't have the judges to adjudicate your case, then by law they issue you a slip and they say, well, show up to your case, and then you can just kind of...
And they stayed in the United States, right?
Yeah, this is kind of like the catch and release thing, basically.
Yeah.
I think that there might be an argument that Biden waited too long to kind of try to address this substantively, and it became a huge thing in the last year. But I guess the big issue that I have is I just don't believe conservatives when they say this was a real problem for the United States. I think a lot of it was just showmanship. I hear a lot of different numbers tonight. You said 10 million. I've heard some say 20 million. I've heard just all sorts of different numbers thrown around about this. The thing that bothers me is that when there was like an actual huge piece of legislation that would go to addressing these issues, Donald Trump explicitly told, and this isn't like a conspiracy, like Ted Cruz and other senators and congressmen just like outwardly talking about this, Donald Trump told people to just nuke the bill related to the immigration stuff, right? So this is a bill that would have given like a congressional cap. Now, obviously, Donald Trump has done this via executive order.
Yeah, he's been doing that already.
But this would have given us like a new law from Congress. It would have given us more judges to actually adjudicate all of the asylum claims and to catch up on everything. I think it would have...
Destiny, I totally understand all that. But at the same time, when you're saying, well, I just don't believe that there's 10 million encounters at the border, this was on paper. If you look at the stats here, it was 10 million encounters.
Well, it's not that I don't believe that there weren't 10 million. I just don't believe it was that big of a problem.
Yeah, but you don't think 10 million encounters at the border was a big issue, Destiny, during that time? Like, you don't find that to be a problem at all?
I think that if there is a very substantial problem, then I think that you would have jumped at, not you personally, but I think people would have jumped at the bit to actually fix it. And the fact that people were content to completely nuke any legislation...
Yeah, but that bill came in 2024. Why didn't they propose it and right when Biden took office, when he had the House and the Senate, if they were so concerned about the border?
If I said that I was like dying of dehydration at 2 p.m. and somebody didn't show up with water until 6 p.m. and then I said I was going to wait until the next day for the Kool-Aid,
Yeah,
I feel
but
like
whose fault was it that didn't give you the water in the first place, right?
It's not about whose fault it is it?
Well, it kind of is, though.
Well, the question is, the question was, how strong is the claim? Is it a really big problem?
It is a really big problem,
If we can push it off
yes.
for like 6 more months, seems like it's not that big of a problem, no?
Well, if you could push it off for another 6 months, the thing is that once they did that border bill, I would say, was there anything in that bill that was going to deter illegal immigrants at the border?
Yes.
What was it?
So one, it would have given what was eventually done through executive order, depending on the legality of that. I guess I don't know where the challenges are to that. It would have given an official cap for shutting down the border if too many people had come in.
What's too many people?
I think it was if the average was like 5,000 over a 1 week period. If it exceeded that, then the government had the ability to legally just shut down all asylum claims.
So then they definitely would have shut it down, especially on average 200,000 illegal immigrants coming to the border, right?
Yeah.
So okay,
but that bill was blocked.
But at the same time, Trump was able to get that done without any type of bill.
Trump was able to get a lot of stuff done,
hold on, but why didn't Joe Biden get it done without a bill then?
Because it's better to do stuff legislatively than it is through executive order.
So then you're okay. So you're telling me that
hold on, wait, real quick. Do you understand that it's hard to believe that it's a real
I totally
problem
understand that it's better.
legislation?
Of course, it's better to do it through a bill.
Yeah, but if they shut down the legislation, how can I believe there's a real problem?
Yeah, but however, a real problem. 10 million illegal immigrants encounters at the border. That's a problem, right? You would agree with that?
Is it? If it is, why did they shut down the bill?
Well, again, they shut down the bill probably because, based off what you were saying, that they're going to run off of that. In this case, it's talking
when
politics.
You say going to run off,
but even Democrats,
right?
Democrats agreed that this was an issue. Kamala Harris even agreed this was an issue.
We're not talking about
I know you're saying you don't care about it, but however, Democrats did.
That's not. So whether or not
no, it is. Would you agree that Democrats did find this to be an issue? Yes or no?
An issue is not what the Republicans sold it as. They sold it as a massive issue, an important issue.
Yeah.
And I'm asking, how can something be an important issue if there's legislation that would address it in like 4 different ways, and Republicans are like, let's go ahead and shelve this for 6 months till we win the election? Seems like it's not an important
issue. Because at the same time, if they're running off of this, of course, they brought it in 2024, right? Why didn't they do it in 2021 or 2020 when they had the House and the Senate, if this was so important to the Democrats as well?
Why didn't Trump pass legislation for it in 2019 or 2020?
Because again, we had the crisis at the border.
In 2021, we had another huge crisis. I don't know if you remember, but there was like COVID, right? And then there was all of the fallout related to that. Immigration was not at the front of people's minds. We had things like inflation that we were worried about. We had all of our huge supply chain disruption.
Okay, so I don't want excuses. I want results here. Again, Joe Biden.
Results? I'm sorry, wait. What legislation has Trump gotten passed in any of his 5 years now in office related to the border?
Related to the border?
Nothing. So you don't care about
hold
results.
on, there's nothing.
But again, it's virtue signaling right now.
How is he virtue signaling?
Because you don't know there's nothing but virtue to signal to.
At the same time, when he mitigated the borders completely down 99% when it comes to the encounter rates, he did that to executive order. Why couldn't Biden do the same thing? Hold on, why couldn't Biden do the same thing if you're complaining about a border bill that they offered in 2024 when they could have done it in 2020 or 2021?
Because typically Democrats don't like to rule via executive order the same way that Donald Trump does.
Okay, so they don't like to use executive orders, is what you're saying, in order to fix a problem that was already there during the Biden administration, right?
The same way that Trump does, correct.
Okay, Destiny.
Do you recognize that it's probably better to have like legislation and powers from Congress to regulate the border rather than doing what Donald Trump does, which is to declare a national emergency in every single part of the world in order to get his agenda passed, I say, but in order to rule by executive fiat. That's not good. The fact that we're doing unilateral tariff policy from the executive office,
Destiny,
the fact that we're doing all of our border policy from the office by declaring emergencies. Like, well, I'm curious. Do you think there's a national emergency with fentanyl coming in from Canada?
Yeah, well, of course it's a national emergency when it comes to the southern border.
Canada?
Well, fentanyl in general, yes, it is.
It's not about in general. Is there a national emergency from fentanyl coming in from Canada?
It is. Yes, but really quick.
You're a Canadian drug dealer. Where is Pangburn?
So really quick.
How much fentanyl did you make this
I am the Canadian drug dealer.
Okay. Anyways, the point is that I'm trying to make, though, Destiny. If you're saying, well, it's not a problem at all, but at the same time,
when did I say that? Did I say that?
You did say that.
I said it was not a massive problem, and it's evidenced by the fact that when there was legislation shut it down, the Republicans had no problem kicking to the curb for 6 months.
But that's not the case, Destiny. Again, yes, I would say that they were running off the bill. Could you get power and get Donald Trump in office and then fix the border with executive orders, especially when you want to do it the root cause, right? The root cause would be encounters. Obviously, the more encounters you have, the more people are going to stay after the administration's over. Wouldn't you say?
So I'm curious.
Hold on.
Are you happy?
The numbers show this, Destiny. The numbers show this. Even with 10 million there, we had 50% of them stay within the United States interior after Joe Biden left office. office. So yes, that's an issue right there. At this point, we have 25 million unaccounted immigrants here.
What you're talking about is by design, though, right? If they came in and they have a receipt waiting to have their asylum claim adjudicated, of course they're going to stay
How
here.
many of them were claiming asylum out of the 10 million?
That was the whole loophole for them getting in.
Dude, how many of them claimed asylum?
But my guess is the majority of them, it's like over 80, 90% of the illegal people that came in did it. They say illegal, but it was by claiming asylum.
Okay, so you actually believe 90% of the 10 million people that were here were claiming
asylum seeker
even
claims,
even though they traveled all the way over here, paying thousands of dollars to the cartels to get over here, and then they snuck in here illegally?
Are you claiming that they are illegitimate asylum claims, or are you claiming
Yes,
that they're not
illegitimately. Yes, of course, obviously.
Okay, how do you determine
but
their
how do you know they're
legitimacy?
legitimate?
You have a judge that adjudicates it. That's the whole point. But we don't have that system now. So you talk about the 10 million people that are here that are supposedly a huge issue. We have no way to work through that backlog because we didn't get additional judges. We didn't get additional funding. We didn't get additional resources. All things that were part of the original bill that would have been passed that the Republicans shut down. Instead, we got an executive order saying, oh, no more people coming through the border, which is fine. I guess it works for that. But do you think that by the end of these 4 years...
It solved the problem right there off the bat.
That's solving the problem. What about the people that are here?
Yes, when it comes to encounters at the border, yes, it solved the problem. We saw this through the stats.
That's not the only problem. You just said there are 10 million people here. Isn't that a problem? All the asylum seeker claims that came through here?
Well, 5 million under Joe Biden, right? He did deport 3 million, et cetera, and we have this. But at the same time, I'm saying that, yes, we now that we've shut down the border, which Trump is massively better on, you know, like you can acknowledge that, right, Destiny?
I don't even know what your goal. Do you think that anybody should?
Wait, hold on.
I don't know what your goal. When you say better,
are you denying the fact that we had 7,000 people encountered at the border in March compared to 200,000 on average under Joe Biden? Do you think that's better? Wouldn't you say that's better?
I wouldn't average Joe Biden because on the years it massively came down year after year because the massive spike was immediately after COVID.
In January it was 50,000. Is that still better?
In January of what year?
Of 2025, Biden's last month.
I would have to see the numbers because Donald Trump would have been president for 1/3 of the month on that anyway. So, but the question is, if you already have 10 million here illegally, if you think that everything is fine now, if Donald Trump goes the next 4 years and he doesn't pass any legislation or do anything else at the border besides a single executive order saying, you know, nobody's allowed to come in and claim asylum and all of that,
sure,
is that a success to you? That's good?
I would say that because we already have that issue already set in stone as far as the encounter rates here at the border, I would say, yeah, I would say we would start working on a bill in order to get that done on a permanent matter at least by the end of his administration. If he doesn't do that, I would say, yeah, that's a failure. But definitely the bigger failure here would still be Joe Biden.
Okay, I'm happy with that. We'll see that by the end of the 4 years. No, because they had a bill ready to go that Congress was ready to sign, that the president was ready to sign, and Donald Trump sent a DM to Ted Cruz, to the rest of the Republicans. They openly talked about it. They said, you know, Donald Trump says that we shouldn't pass this bill. And then all of a sudden, the Republican Dream Bill that was authored by Lankford, a Republican in the Senate that they were all happy with, all of a sudden, all of them said, well, nah, you know, Donald Trump doesn't want to go this way with things because Donald Trump doesn't want to go any way with anything. And all he wanted to do was sign an executive order to band-aid the issue at the border and not have any kind of comprehensive deal with anything with the people here right now or anything else.
This is obviously playing politics, right? You could say that, especially when it comes to policies, it's the same thing.
You play politics with issues that aren't that
would be
important.
politics.
That's not that big of an issue then.
No, it is a big issue.
Clearly not. If they could kick it down the road for 6 months, it's not that big of an issue. What else? What are the equivalent issues to do that with?
Let me tell you this. When it came to voters in general, you do know the number one issue with people that voted, especially for Donald Trump, was because of the border, right? You know that, right?
The number one issue with kindergartners is they think they don't have enough nap time. I mean, that's not telling me anything.
That is telling you something. Look at the polls, Destiny.
That's
fine. For you to just ignore,
conservatives think that 25% of Americans are trans just because of the voters because they care about a particular thing.
Name one conservative that thinks 25% of the population is trans.
I don't know. Ask people to do a poll like
you're just making shit up off the bat.
I'm not making shit up off the bat. It's literally a YouGov poll. You can literally go look it up.
You are making shit up, Destiny. That's the point here. Is that it's hard to talk to you when you're saying stupid statements like Republicans believe 25% of the population is trans.
We reached a point of agreement. reach a point of agreement, I'm happy. So you're saying that at the end of this administration, after 4 years, if there's no immigration legislation, you would consider that his stance on the border was a failure?
I would say that this would be a failure for sure.
Okay,
but wouldn't we agree that under Joe Biden, allowing especially the numbers that we see from Joe Biden, would you say that his policies when it came to the border is also a failure?
Well, I think that he could have done better than the border, for sure.
Okay, so you would say that you could have done better, but you would consider it
But
success?
there were like 50 million other things that he was handling in the country at that point in time.
Yeah,
I would
but
say that
I'm strictly just talking about the border.
He could do better. Donald Trump
is
is
it
not
a failure or is it not?
No, I'm not going to say he's failed at the border.
So then at that point, we can't really agree, especially when it comes to Biden, especially allowing 5 million people into the border. And if you look at other administrations, it was nowhere near those numbers, bro. It was nowhere near
because-
those numbers.
because
Not from
after-
Barack
because
Obama,
after-
not from the previous administration of Donald Trump.
Okay. This is an issue that we don't care about. We just don't care about. You don't care about it. No, like nobody in other provinces care about
no,
it.
it
It's a
seems
talking
like
point you put up. Just like how in the 4 years before Donald Trump and the 4 years after Donald Trump and Biden, it was always like, there's the new caravan that's coming to the border. Here's the new
And
group
that
of
was
illegals
true.
that are
There
coming to the
was
border.
caravans
Yeah,
coming
where
to the
are
border,
they?
yes.
Where are all the caravans?
Yeah,
what happened?
Oh, you didn't
then
watch the news of the caravans going to the southern border?
Yeah, where did they go? What happened?
It's crazy to me
Where
how
did they
Destiny
go?
just wants to ignore it.
Did they all
Where
come
did
in
they
and
go?
blow
There's
everything
no
up? Like, what's
caravans.
happening?
I'm just going to ignore them
Yeah,
and pretend
I'm
that
just
they don't
saying
exist.
It's crazy that all
That's
of
the
these
thing when it
illegals
comes
were
to
supposed to come in. They were
Democrats.
supposed to be
that's the-
overwhelming all the welfare centers and everything else, but they started raiding Home Depots to kick them out of their jobs. It's crazy that they were supposed to destroy the United States, but somehow they go to a place like California that is the most prosperous economy in the entire United States. You know, like, yeah, I'm just saying, it's
that's the
crazy
thing.
to me. Here's a question: if
Hold
illegal
on,
immigrants
hold
are
on.
so
Well, I just
destructive to
wanna
the
say,
United
that's the thing,
States, why wouldn't Donald Trump sit and watch California fall apart? Why is he sending
Sorry,
ICE
Justin,
to
you're
go
talking way
do
too fast. I can't
galloping
understand you.
horse
Slow down,
things
bro.
through
Slow down, slow
McCarthy
down, slow
Park?
down. Calm
I'm
down,
just saying,
calm
it's kind of crazy.
Calm down. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
You only have a couple minutes, Jake.
Here's the thing when it comes to Democrats, dude, especially when it comes to the raids, one thing with politicians, they're focusing more on the mask of ICE rather than the actual issues here, right? They're saying, well, ICE is wearing masks, while simultaneously ignoring that all of the rioters, especially from BLM, from the LA riots, were also wearing masks too. Why were they doing that, Destiny? Right? But yet Democrats wants to shoot out to those types of issues that don't actually matter.
Listen, I'm just glad the Republicans moved on from thinking that wearing masks meant you were a Nazi or whatever, because apparently that was the stance during COVID, I guess.
Okay. Well, at the same time, like I'm saying, I think Democrats always want to pivot to something that's not even there in the first place, right?
What do
Wearing
you mean?
masks, ICE wears masks. Donald Trump bad. This is stuff that's
Donald Trump is bad. I think the issue that people
Donald
have
Trump's
with
Hitler,
people
right?
wearing
Destiny.
I don't think he's Hitler. Hitler is way smarter than Trump.
well,
Okay.
well, they said it was
Donald Trump is
8
Hitler. We're getting real
years
problem right now, okay?
of that, right?
I'm just saying. I think that the issue related to
Calm
ICE
down,
wearing
guys.
masks.
It wasn't that funny.
The issue. I think
It wasn't that funny. Calm down.
I think the scary thing with ICE wearing masks is that when you have videos of people jumping out of vans and trying to black bag people, and then you've got your Rodrigo Garcia stories, you've got all these other weird stories, you've got Trump supporters whose wives are being shipped off to other countries, and the lack of due process and all of the challenges. I
This
know
guy's
it's funny
really
to you
drinking the
because things
Kool-Aid
actually
here,
matter or whatever,
as well
but
as
like,
your
yeah.
audience. All right, we're good on this?
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Destiny, so much for the exchange. By the way, I'm Jake Varr. You can find me on YouTube, Project VOPod on YouTube, man. I really appreciate it. Destiny, of course. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Jake. Okay, give him a round of applause. Yeah, thanks. And also on the fentanyl issue, it's less than 1% of the fentanyl seizures coming over the border into the U.S. is coming from Canada, okay? That's my serious comment on the issue.